Hello, I'm making this video actually in response to the many kind words I've had from people asking me how my horse is. So if you're not interested at all in horses, I'm going to be talking about some of the worries that people have when they own a horse and a strange experience I had on Thursday to do with my horse. So a bit mystical actually, and as you any of my regulars will know, I'm not really a mystical type of person, but yeah, well, there it is. You see, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy, I suppose. So to start with, I want to tell you what my worry was the other day. My horse was not eating and he wasn't pooping either. That's a bad sign. And in order to tell you why that's a bad sign, I have to explain something about horse physiology. They are perfectly designed for what they're meant to do, and that is running away fast enough so that they don't get eaten before they get a chance to reproduce. So this is how a horse accomplishes this feat of longevity, longevity of a sort. We have a diaphragm here, and when we breathe, we are fighting gravity all the time. You know, we breathe in, and we do that by expanding the diaphragm, and then we breathe out by pushing the diaphragm up and expelling the air from our lungs. Our lungs are purely passive in that respect. With a horse, it's different. It's not fighting gravity in the same way because a horse is sideways. The diaphragm is horizontal. The diaphragm is vertical to the ground, not horizontal. And the way a horse manages its breathing is as follows. It has guts, like mammals do, and in the human the guts are all in a very tightly compressed wiggly bag that's between here and the abdomen. The horse has guts that, I mean, this is an oversimplification obviously, but basically guts that dangle down from the spine, from the area where the spine is. They just more or less dangle down. They rope up as well, but I'm being simple about it. They're like curtains hanging from a curtain rail in a way. So and there's a lot of space in general. They're not packed as tightly as human guts. So what happens is this: if a horse has to run really quickly, it will leap forward. When it does that, inertia will make the intestines slap backwards. This will create a vacuum in the abdomen which draws the diaphragm back with it and expands the lungs. So the horse leaps forward, the diaphragm immediately gets snapped back and the lungs fill with air. Then when the horse reaches the point of suspension before the next leap, the inertia again slaps the intestines forward into the diaphragm, and the diaphragm pushes into the lungs. Out comes the breath. So when a horse is galloping, for instance, it will breathe as fast as its footsteps, and with practically no effort. Not like when we run, you know, we've got to heave in every breath with a great deal of effort, use a lot of energy just doing that. No, when a horse is running, all its energy is going into the running, and the breathing just comes automatically. And the downside to that is that the intestines are loose. If the horse, for instance, if a horse is kept in a box for months and weeks, as sometimes they are, they don't get a chance to go out to a paddock. They don't get a chance to move around. The intestines have enough space in the abdomen to knot up. And when that happens, of course, the peristalsis that carries the constant flow of hay through the horse's body from the mouth and out to the other end, stops, infection starts, and that's the end of the horse. And that's called colic. Now, colic can be caused by a knot or an obstruction of some sort. You know, it takes a lot to obstruct a horse's gut, but it might happen. Or inflammation somewhere along the line, or just stress. You know how you tighten up when you're stressed. Well, that happens to horses as well. And as a matter of fact, I've frequently said that horses are like people with half their brains removed. They're far more like people than dogs. It's funny that, and then I'm going to explain my feelings on that matter in a minute. But let's get back to the horse physiology. So when a horse stops eating, the first thing you worry about is, does it have colic? And if it does, then this is really serious. It has, it's generally an operation of some sort. There are drugs as well. You try those first, but you know, and it's terribly painful for the horse. And you can see a horse that has colic, it stands up and then it's in pain, so it lies down, it's still in pain, so it stands up again, it's in constant torture, it's sweating. It's just horrible to see. And when my horse, who has a really good appetite, stopped eating, you know, I was really, when we tried him with, well, he wouldn't eat his hay, so we tried him with something called haylage, which is a sort of fermented hay. I believe it must be slightly alcoholic, and horses love it. I told you before, I think in another video, how vegetarian animals love a drink. Yeah, they generally speaking, horses prefer haylage as well. No, he wouldn't eat the haylage, and all we could do was keep him drinking. And that's important as well. Anyway, we gave him some painkillers. I had to take him to the vet. The vet listened to his stomach and he could hear the gut moving. So there was motility there. It means he didn't have colic. And that was a great relief to me. But he obviously had something, because he still wasn't eating. And there you still have a problem, because if a horse doesn't eat, then nothing's going through the gut. And that's when they get colic as well. Horses have to eat all the time, more or less. That's how they are constructed, to graze on the open plain, aren't they? And so just to keep everything moving, that's the way they're made. So we put some, horse feed which flavoured the water, and he did drink a lot of the water, and he ate some of the feed, so at least there was liquid going through his gut. But it was very worrying. Today he has actually eaten a little bit of hay, so maybe I do hope he's on the mend. We thought maybe it was something with his teeth, who knows? I did ask him, but he didn't answer. But there was this strange experience I had with the horse on Thursday. He was ill on Friday. But on Thursday, while I was brushing him down and grooming him, I suddenly started to get this feeling of connection with him, which was a sort of a sadness, a deep, calm sadness. And it became overpowering. I actually mentioned it to one of the stable hands, and I actually, I started to feel weepy, because at one point I got a feeling, oh my God, he's saying goodbye to me. And it was a sort of accepting type of sadness. But then you see, if a horse is going to become sick, he doesn't have to be a prophet or anything. If a horse is sick, it knows it's going to die. I mean, you know, that's because horses are still living in their heads. They're still in the the prairie or the steppes where they originated, and they know that if they're at all below par on Thursday afternoon, they're going to be dinner for a family of wolves by Friday lunchtime. That's just the way things are. So if he was saying goodbye to me, it's because he thought that he was not well and that's going to be the end of him. So I'm not saying that was him telling me the future, but it was definitely, I was feeling distinctly weepy. And when I went out to ride with him, we just, well, more or less only walked. We just walked through the woods because I felt like that's what I wanted to do with him at that time. I just wanted to keep that connection with him. You know, if you're galloping around, then you're not really thinking of the horse anymore so much. You're thinking of not falling off. So that was it. But I have had I've owned that horse about 12 years now. Well, 11 years. And on 4 distinct occasions, I have actually been inside that horse's brain. Or he's been in my brain, one or the other. There are these occasions, and every rider will tell you, every rider who had a relationship of a sort with a horse, rather than just somebody who keeps on jumping on horses and riding school ponies, of course, they keep themselves to themselves for obvious reasons. But if you have any sort of a constant ongoing relationship with a horse, you will find every rider has had an experience of connection, which is something out of the ordinary in ordinary life. And that was something I had on Thursday, and it left me very shaken for a couple of days. And yesterday, when I was up at the stables, I was about to ride another horse. I thought, well, I'll just go in there, I'll ride another horse, I'll say hello to my horse. And I stood there looking at him, and then he put his face up against the barrier of his stall, and I put my head against the barrier. You know, they're just like bars about that far apart. And the stable owner said, you know, just get on with it, go and ride the other horse. You're just making him miserable. She could see that we were reinforcing each other. Anyway, as I said, today he is eating better, so it's certainly not colic, because colic wouldn't go for several days. It's quite quick when it happens. It could still be his teeth, but then teeth don't get better. If he had a terrible toothache, it wouldn't get better. So again, so that seems to be going. So we're just hoping it was one of those viruses, you know, an infection, cold. I mean, horses get infections and things like everything else. I'm just hoping it's simply that and nothing more serious. Anyway, that's it. That's my story of what happened with my horse, and maybe you know a little more about horses now. I would appreciate it if you'd contribute to this channel, but liking, sharing and subscribing are pretty good too. If you're on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, just check your subscription and click that bell, because YouTube tends to drop these things. Okay, so I also let you know when I've uploaded a new video on Twitter, Gab or Parler, where I am at granniopteryx. If you subscribe to one of those, then you'll always get notifications. Right, that's it. Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.